Hello and welcome to this special edition of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. But today we will be dedicating our episode to the G7 summit and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi attendance to the summit and the speech given by His Excellency. And we will start off with our special reports first, and we'll be back with our guest over the phone for 2 days. Leaders from the US, Canada, UK, France, Italy, Germany and Japan, as well as top EU officials attended the summit, discussed global challenges involving foreign policy, the economy, the protection of the environment. The aim of the meeting is to shape global responses to challenges affecting countries worldwide. We have the story.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi participated in 2019 G7 summit held in France, Biarritz, from August 24th to 26th and chaired by France. El-Sisi's invitation comes in light of Egypt's chairmanship of the African Union. The G7 summit comes under theme Fighting Inequality. G7 stands for 7 countries: US, the UK, Japan, Italy, Germany, France and Canada, which represent 40% of the global GDP. France had previously hosted the G7 summits for 6 times since the establishment of the group in 1975 to tackle global issues of peace, security, health, education, environment, climate change, counter-terrorism, etc. In October 2017, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi paid France a 4-day official visit, during which he tackled bilateral and international and regional issues with French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Élysée Palace. On January 28, 2019, Macron paid Egypt a 3-day visit, during which the bilateral relations, as well as the crises in Syria, Libya, Palestine, and Africa were discussed.
And now we go to a feature report on Egyptian-French relations and the history of these relations throughout history. We have the story.
Egypt and France have historical relations dating back to the end of the 18th century. French culture had and still has a significant impact on the Egyptian life in general, since the establishment of the state in Egypt and in modern sense, in the period after Napoleon and the era of Muhammad Ali. It was the French who opened the doors of ancient Egyptian history, helping us to read our ancient language and to reach what we know now about this Egyptian civilization. One of the most prominent of the French aid is the disappearance of the Rosetta Stone, which was found by an officer of the French campaign to Egypt. The hieroglyphic writing was disappeared in 1822. Muhammad Ali began to build modern Egypt. The Egyptian missions went to France in all fields of science and literature, from Rifat al-Tahtawi to Taha Hussein and others. We cannot deny that generations of Egyptian intellectuals were influenced by the writers and ideas of the French thinkers and writers such as Voltaire and others. One of the most important Egyptian books is The Influence of the French Civilization on the Vision of Rifat al-Tahtawi for Women, an encyclopedia of Egypt's description as a result of the French campaign. During the 18th century, Egypt made France a destination for its student missions and relied on French advisors for it wanted to establish schools, universities, or scientific bodies, or renew its life in any productive branches. During this period, the French participated in the construction of the bridges, buildings, and schools. In the military field, Muhammad Ali Pasha used French officers to establish the modern army of Egypt and to establish the modern navy. 2019 is a very special year in the history of the relations between Egypt and France, coinciding with the 150th anniversary of the opening of the Suez Canal, which is one of the great achievements in the course of bilateral relations. France's significant participation at the Cairo International Book Fair as the Golden Jubilee, held on the 2nd of January of 2019, is one of the most prominent features of the Year of Egypt. France 2019. In the Opera Big Theatre, the first performance of Paris Opera Ballet with the participation of Cairo Opera Ballet took place in the Grand Hall.
In the Grand Hall, the Lafayette in France's King Tutankhamun exhibition will be held.
It includes a number of gold jewels, also in carving statues and funerary furnitures. Paris is the second phase of this exhibition. Egypt sponsors this exhibition as part of the global tour between the countries of the world for the monuments and artistic pieces of the golden pharaohs, which are unparalleled.
أود بداية أن أعرب عن ترحيبي الشديد بفخامة الرئيس ماكرون حيث يحل سيادته ضيفا عزيزا على مصر، وذلك في ضوء علاقات الصداقة الممتدة، وهي صداقة تستند إلى تاريخ طويل من المصالح المتبادلة والتفاعلات الإنسانية والحضارية بين شعبينا منذ قرون، خاصة في ضوء الاهتمام الفرنسي الكبير الذي نقدره ونعتز به بالحضارة المصرية ومختلف مراحلها التاريخية لا سيما الفرعونية.
وهنا على أرض مصر كان كتاب وصف مصر الذي سجله علماء فرنسيين وصار من أهم مراجع التاريخ المصري، وسبقه رحلات عديدة سجلها التاريخ من رحالة فرنسيين وصفوا مشاهد الحياة المصرية السرية في كل أشكالها الحضارية. يسرني أن نرحب بكم على أرض مصر المقدسة في مقر الكنيسة القبطية الأرثوذكسية المصرية.
والشراكة الاستراتيجية القائمة بين مصر وفرنسا عزز من عمقها ما شهدته علاقات البلدين على أصعدة التعاون في جميع المجالات والمستوى الرفيع من التنسيق إزاء مختلف القضايا الإقليمية والدولية. أكدت لفخامة الرئيس ترحيب مصر بالشركات الفرنسية وتعظيم مشاركتها في المشروعات القومية العملاقة واستفادتها من الفرص الواعدة في شتى قطاعات الاقتصاد المصري. أعرب لكم عن خالص التقدير والشكر على حسن الاستقبال الذي لقيناه منذ وصولنا إلى بلدكم الصديق، حيث اتفقنا على إعلان عام 2019 عاما للثقافة والسياحة المصرية الفرنسية.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and on the G7 summit and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's participation at the summit and Egyptian-French relations, we're joined over the phone by Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, madam.
Ambassador Haridi, this is President Sisi's fourth visit to France and the first participation of an Egyptian president at the G7 summit. The world now recognizes Egypt's importance in the international equation as a stabilizing factor of peace in the region. How do you see the significance of President Sisi's attendance of the G7 summit?
Well, President Sisi is participating in the G7 summit in France in his capacity as the chairman of the African Union for the year 2019-2020. And in fact, the agenda of the G7 summit includes an agenda item on development in Africa. Yesterday, a special session on this topic was held, in which President Sisi gave very important and significant remarks on the way the African continent views its partnership with the seven countries, the most industrialized seven countries, the G7. And in his remarks, President Sisi tried to make linkages between sustainable development, the fight against corruption, the fight against the war on terrorism, equality, gender equality. So the remarks were comprehensive in its approach and comprehensive in its demands. And I guess in the deliberations of the G7, the ideas and the concept that were adopted by President Sisi in his capacity as the chairman of the African Union were well received. And I guess the French, particularly the French and the Italians and the Germans, believe in consolidating and strengthening the partnership between the G7 and the African continent. And as a matter of fact, President Sisi and the Egyptian presidency of the African Union has been working on this particular point of strengthening the partnerships, not only the partnership between between Africa and the G7, but between Africa and international organizations and the European Union. So I get the presence of President Sisi in the G7 at Biarritz in France would go a long way towards strengthening and consolidating the relations between Africa and the G7 countries. Hello?
On the sidelines of the G7 summit, President Sisi also met with a number of world leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump. How do you see the significance of sideline meetings conducted by President Sisi?
Well, in fact, these multilateral meetings are very important in themselves, but in the meantime, they are very good occasions for heads of state in organizing bilateral meetings with other counterparts. And in this particular case, President Sisi, as you have just mentioned, Madam, has met with American President Donald Trump early this morning and yesterday, and the day before yesterday, he met the Italian Prime Minister yesterday. He had meetings with some African leaders as well as with the German Chancellor, Ms. Angela Merkel. So these are very productive meetings. They go a long way towards strengthening bilateral relations as well as providing a common front in dealing with various challenges and threats to regional security and to international peace and security.
Right. Well, sir, how could Egypt's presidency of the African Union be invested to activate the partnership between the European Union countries, the G7 members, and Africa?
Well, as you may know, Madam, first of all, we have the Millennium Sustainable Goals that were adopted the year before last in the United Nations till 2030, and then we have the agenda, the African agenda till of 2063. So I guess the partnerships between Africa and the United Nations and European Union do come in the framework of making linkages between all these development plans, ambitious development plans. Of course, one of the top priorities of the Egyptian presidency of the African Union was, in fact, strengthening partnerships across the board between Africa, the European Union, the United Nations, other international economic and financial institutions. The agenda is quite ambitious, and the road ahead is a very long road. As I said, it's the agenda, the development agenda 2063, which is it branches off in many areas, but I guess we are on the right way.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister, for your valuable insight. And ladies and gentlemen, with that we wrap up this special edition. We will be continuing our coverage of the G7 summit and President Sisi's attendance throughout the rest of the day. Many thanks for watching.